doing a talk, UPU's Regulations on Offensive Postage Stamps and Postal War. Jan's collecting interests include disputed political propaganda on worldwide postage stamps and other philatelic material. He has written over 300 articles in many of the leading philatelic magazines of the Netherlands, Germany, and the United Kingdom. He has edited a German and English catalog on Postal War titled Specialized Catalog of Postal War 1870 to 2008, and it's currently in its 7th edition. He also hosts a bilingual website, which is in both German and English, on Postal War, in which he regularly publishes new articles concerning postal falsifications. The website also provides resource information on matters concerning Postal War and the Universal Postal Union. And with that, I'll turn it over to Jan.
Okay, thank you very much. I'm happy that I can join the symposium. I will talk about the UPU regulations on offensive postage stamps leading to so-called Postal War. My name is Jan Heijs, as I said, and I'm chairman of the Philatelic Academy of the Netherlands. And I'm going to tell you about 5 points. What are the UPU regulations on pictures on stamps? What are offensive stamps and postal war? How postal administrations can protest against pictures on stamps at the UPU? What happens to mail with disputed stamps? And how to prevent measures against offensive stamps and secure delivery by the postal administration. The UPU regulations on pictures on postage stamps are recommendations and not obligations, but they are from the conventions, and different conventions did regulate different things. In 1957, the recommendation C14 says that pictures on stamps have to contribute to better understanding between people, their different culture, and general to international friendship. During the Cold War, this was also added in 1979 with recommendation C1993 that also has to avoid subjective interpreted offensive issues. It is many protests during the Cold War. For example, refugees can be interpreted as Eastern refugees, but also as other refugees. In 1948, recommendation C27 added the maintenance of peace in the world has also to be part of the picture. In 2012, recommendation F1 was added, and it has to be of the picture has to be of major significance to the member. And it was done because many countries only issued for commercial reasons special pictures which has nothing to do with the country of origin. So what's an offensive stamp? I have one example from the United States during the Cold War. In 1960, the USA postage stamp Champions of Liberty was depicting the Czech liberal former head of state, Masaryk. Here on the letter to communist Czechoslovakia. The sticker none at me, it means in French not allowed, and it was returned to the sender. Only because of the stamp. Czechoslovakia considered this as an offensive stamp, being a socialist country. What is postal war? Postal war is a measure by one postal authority against the postage stamps of another postal authority because of political propaganda on the stamp, meter mark, or another postal element. I will explain all three. Measures can be the returning of mail to the sender despite correct franking, the application of postage due or a countermark, or defacing, blackening, or removing the stamp. In the world, about 70 countries were involved in around 300 postal wars, and the postal wars I know are between 1870 and 2008. What is the UPU rule to protest against a picture on a postage stamp? Members, in this case the Federal Republic of Germany, do send postage stamps to the UPU to inform all members which issues are valid. And at the blue arrow you can see that Poland protested, the lower blue arrow. The UPU Bureau International sent the protest to all the members, and you can see that this writing has number 153 in the year 1985. And that's all the UPU is allowed to do. The UPU is not capable to declare postage stamps illegal. But which stamp is meant in this protest? Here we see the Bundesrepublik Deutschland, 1985, and it's telling about 40 years of dispelled people, and it's the left stamp on the cover with the German flag on it. 40 years after World War II, many Germans fled from the Soviet-occupied areas, 1985, in part of Poland, now to the West Germany. Poland's opinion is that the expelled people moved voluntarily in 1945. So the red Polish return mark indicates the reason in the UPU Bureau International number 153, 1985. So in the left, you can see at the blue arrow that this number from the internal mail between postal administrations is also in the cancellation to return. And then we also have a violet cachet, and that's a West German cachet explaining to the addressee that the illegal returning of this mail, because West Germany says this is not according to the UPU rules. Well, the returning has to be found in the UPU regulation for postal measures against this postage stamp. And that exists. It's called the prohibitions. Members can refuse mail under certain conditions, like dangerous objects, live animals, narcotics, etc. The wording and numbering changed every convention, but the substance remained essentially unchanged. So we see here a return mark at the left, which says Convention Ottawa 1957. It's a Polish return mark, and it says it's returned because of Article 60, paragraph 1D. And the red one is a Russian one. It says that it's returned because of Article 28, paragraph 1D. But both numbers have exactly the same text. It is that objects mail can be refused because of objects of which the import of circulation in the country of destination is forbidden. It is obviously meant for subjects inside the mail, but in this fact it's used for the stamp on the mail. There are other postal elements as postage stamps, and this the meter mark. Meter mark on the letter to Hungary is saying support your crusade for freedom. But this letter is from 1957, just after the 1956 Hungarian uprising, which is crushed by the Soviets. The blue sticker all again says non admis, not admitted, and is in the French language, because French is the language used in the UPU. And later on in 1994, the English language was added. But French language is the most important language in the UPU. Well, why is it returned? The Hungarian Postal Administration and also the government says that the meter mark is supporting the uprising. So political propaganda and offensive. We also have other postal elements. Here we see a postal entire. In 1950, the German Democratic Republic has an entire with a political statement that Hamburg, which is part of West Germany, Hamburg is the entrance of the world of a united democratic mental socialist Germany. Hamburg also was the access to the river going far into the German Democratic Republic. So if you would use the river, you have to pass Hamburg. But the entire was sent to West Berlin. The West Berlin postal authorities added a red countermark, but not under communist dictatorship. And of course, Berlin was divided in a Western Allied zone and a Soviet zone, and they didn't agree, and they did disagree on most all of the subjects they had to handle. So West Berlin was extra sensible, and that's why they used this red counter cancellation. Then we also said blackening was possible in the Postal War. In 1953, the Federal Republic of Germany issued a postage stamp, "Remember our prisoners." And that were the prisoners of World War II captured in the Soviet Union. Here, this stamp is on a mail to the German Democratic Republic. The German Democratic Republic considered this as helping ex-Hitler Army POEs. So this stamp was blackened by the postal authorities, but the mail in the end was delivered. We also have other countermeasures in more recent, 1995 to 2008. Macedonia was an offensive name, not for Macedonia itself, but in 1993, Greece protested against the new country name Republic of Macedonia, which was part of Yugoslavia. Macedonia also is a Greek province. So the Greek government said that they wanted to annex the Greek province. So later a name was universally agreed, Fyrom, former Yugoslav Republic of Macedonia. But the postage stamps of Macedonia still had the name Republic of Macedonia. So on mail to Greece resulted in a Greek countermark recognized by Greece as Fyrom. See the blue arrow. Well, also postage due is a countermeasure. This letter is correctly franked, but in 1965, South Rhodesia declared itself independent, and the UK considered this as illegal and declared the stamps invalid. The stamps with the word independence. And despite they chose to show also the English Queen, they said it was not valid. And if it's not valid, there is no stamp on it. So if there is no stamp on it, you apply postage due. Here, despite correct franking in the country of origin. And this is not according to the UPU rules, because the UPU says that every country has to know by itself what picture they want to put on a stamp. Well, the UPU did a lot also to prevent postal war and also postal administrations. Here we see a letter from France to Lebanon. It is bearing the French postage stamp 50 years of diplomatic relations with Israel, and Lebanon did not accept that. The French postal authorities, they knew that it would not reach Lebanon and the addressee, so they put it in another cover and forwarded this in a free of charge service cover from the post, from the mail, and it was delivered. Of course, both covers do have the same address. Also in Germany, they try to prevent postal war by changing the stamps. Here we see at the left, we see a cover from West Berlin stamp. The most right stamp has a building, and all these stamps with these buildings were not accepted because on one of them the building of the European building was presented. So they returned all the stamps having a building in West Berlin. And West Berlin was not part of Germany because it has a political other status. So it was not part of Germany also. And that's why they returned all the letters with these stamps. But in Germany, they changed the cover and put neutral Federal Republic German stamps on it, and it's the right cover. And we can see that the cover was changed by the post, by the registered label. It misses the left upper corner, and the left upper corner is on the first letter. You can see it at the blue arrow. And also in the United States, some postal war happened because here we see a POE letter to Germany during World War II, and it's bearing the 1942 anti-fascist issue, Win the War. And of course, the Germans would not accept this, so it was already returned in the USA. And there was a special sticker for it, return to sender for corrective attention. It's the upper blue arrow. And it was said on the second blue arrow that postage stamps intended to promote our war effort, which are objectionable to German government, and consequently it will be not delivered to addressee. And the people have to change the stamps. And this also prevents postal war. So, concluding, the UPU advises pictures on stamps contributing to international understanding, not disturbing postal relations by recommendations on conventions and not by obligations. And forwarding protest of a member about offensive considered all stamp to all members. The Bureau International Messages. Members try to prevent postal war in different ways, as we have seen. And despite that, about 300 postal wars from 1807 to 2008 are known. Partly delivered with countermeasures, about 240 of them, and only a smaller amount partly returned to the sender, about 60. Hence, most of the offensive mail finally was delivered, and that's the goal of the UPU. Sources used for this research are the UPU Convention text 1929-2012. Every convention is ended with a big book about all the obligations that were agreed from some 100 pages. About 30 messages of the UPU International Bureau on different issues are in my archive. And I collect postal war since 1980, in which period I had about 700 covers. And I always make copies and scans of postal war letters and mail, and I have about 9,000 to proof that it was all real and not philatelic. A lot of publications on this matter was done by me, which is already said at the beginning, and all resulting in a catalog and a website. The catalog, you can see here the catalog in yellow, is the 7th edition and is bilingual in English and German. And since 2017, I also have a website, www.postkrieg.info or www.postalwar.info. If anyone has questions, you can reach me at heismo@accessforall.nl. And I'm happy to answer on questions if they are there.
Thank you. Thank you very much for this presentation. It was really fascinating and something we can all relate to. My recollection is that sometime in the 1980s, Iran issued some stamps celebrating their taking of American hostages in Tehran and other anti-American stamps. I wonder if there was any response by the United States, or if there are any other evidence that the United States, as a country full of free speech as a principle, if the United States was involved in any postal wars where we refused mail from other countries. Thank you.
Yes, I can answer that because, of course, I did research on this option, but the United States never refused mail from Iran with this postage stamp. But at one point, some traders offered it, but it was never any proof that the United States did refuse it or block it or something like that. So there's no postal war on this matter.
What was the 1870 postal war that you referenced?
1870 is the Germany occupied a part of France, and they issued special stamps for it, and they were refused in France. And most of the postal war was that the mail from the occupied part into France was got postage due. And at one stage, also senders, they added some French postage stamp also. And well, if the last if my catalog is still in, can you see? Then it's the cover in the middle, and it's a double franking. Yes, I see that it's the left brown one is the Occupy stamping from Germany, and the right one is the French postage stamp.
Oh, have you seen a cover with the, is it Ukrainian? Ukrainian Snake Island stamp refused by Russia?
No, I did not see it. There is no postal connection between Russia and Ukraine at the moment. What I try to do is you have a lot of postage stamps which are helping Ukraine. So my brother is living in Madrid, and Spain issued a postage stamp helping Ukraine as a protest against the Russian occupation. And he did send several covers into Russia. But as always, these covers just disappear and never reach the addressee.
How do you know if a country's protests to the UPU, say like Poland's, were printed and sent to post offices, or did many of these countries have a central post offices through which international mail had to travel?
I don't understand exactly the question. Can you repeat it?
Do you know if a country's protest to the, do you know of a country's protest to the UPU say like Poland's,
Mhm.
were printed and sent to post offices, or did many of these countries have central post offices through which international mail had to travel?
Yes, it's so that the messages of the UPU, it's internal for members of the UPU, and they were sent, these protests were sent to all members of the UPU. So every country knew about this protest. It's even so that Germany answered on this protest, that they did not accept it. And this was also sent to all the members of the UPUs, hence all the countries.
For which of the examples that you've shown today of postal war do you have or have seen the most examples?
Well, I have 300 postal wars. I do have myself nearly all of them. Only 2 or 3 seldom postal wars I do not have, but I cooperate with a collector in Brussels, and he has the other seldom ones. So together we have a complete overview of all the postal wars, and all in original letters. It's
How do you know
difficult
if
to.
the postal markings on a particular cover are
Mhm.
indicative of an example of postal war or just an overzealous teller at a post office applying such a postmark?
Yes, I understand that. How I can say it's genuine. First of all, I have a lot of letters that I can compare. I am also expertising postal war, and have a big collection of falsifications. So I only do it in my catalog, put it in my catalog when I have more letters than one, and the letters I have must be from commercial origin. There are a lot of traders who also produced Postal War, which is also genuine, but it's some of them also make falsifications. And I have a collection of about 300 falsifications.
In the examples you've shown or the things you have in your collection, is there one example that sort of stands out more than the others?
That's difficult because there are a lot of special things. For me, it was very difficult to find the Win the War Postal War thing. It took me about 7 to 8 years to find it when I knew it existed. And especially a POE thing is very difficult to find because it's not a normal mail. And the other example for the 40 years of integration with the red Polish retours cancellation, it's very common. You can find it on eBay for not so much money.
Have you ever encountered an example of a neutral country during World War II who their neutrality was threatened by postal war or these cancels?
Oh, no, not that the neutrality was threatened by a postage stamp. I don't know that. No.
Is it a type of postal war that in the 1960s that North Korea and Cuba were not allowed to have stamps sold in the United States? Is that a type of postal war in your opinion?
Well, to the definition in the catalog, it's not postal war. But my collection is not only Postal War. Postal War is only about 20% of my collection. I also do collect disputed stamps, which are not Postal War. So I do have that kind of things in my collection.
I missed part of your presentation, but the question I have is, during World War II, the mail from Germany often bore stamps with the image of Hitler. And I don't know if you can share examples that were either blocked or allowed by US Postal Service. As a reference, I collect diplomatic mail. I do have diplomatic mail from World War II from Germany bearing Hitler's stamp. Somehow it made it through. Thank you.
Well, I never have seen a Hitler stamp blocked by the United States. There are many Hitler stamps which were blacked after the World War, even with anti-Hitler texts on it. That is in my collection, but it's not Postal War. But during the Second World War, there were special cancellations with German propaganda, and they were blacked out by Switzerland, for example, because Switzerland was a neutral country.
Has any country who considers a stamp of another country to be offensive or hostile countered by issuing another stamp?
Yes,
Have you encountered that?
that does exist indeed. I don't call it Postal War because, but there was a Greek journalist who was captured in Russia, and the Greek edited a stamp. No, I'm wrong. There was a Greek journalist who was left-wing, and the Russians put it on a stamp to protest against him being in a prison.